Well, hello and good morning. This is Elisa with Season Fitness, and today I have joining me Delora from Mindset Mastery. I am not good with last names, so I'm going to let you do that one for yourself. But today we're going to talk to you about how to handle, maybe overcome some of your anxiety, whether it's hormone or personal issue related. So, Delora, tell us a little bit about yourself and help me pronounce your last name.
Sure. So my name is Delora, and it's okay that you can't pronounce it. Most people can't, even the people in my family. And I am a mindset mentor. And so I help people get out of their own heads, get out from under their story, and live their lives the way they want to. And a lot of us aren't taught to do that. So it's really a rewarding career to be able to do this. I'm also a mother of 4 children, and I left a corporate job to do this. So, I found my happy place. This is where I'm meant to be.
Right. And so I want to share with all of you that I had the honor of having an hour with Delora helping to get me out of some of my personal blocks. And she does amazing work. So if you need a little boost in your mindset, she is the gal to chat with. So I know we talked about my anxiety, about where I was going with my business and life, but a lot of what the women I hear of in the groups for menopause, perimenopause, is that their anxiety is super high. Now, I know some of that is elevated simply because of hormones, but it's not usually the underlying cause. What are some of your ideas about that?
Well, I think that anytime hormones or stress or a trauma makes us feel really emotional, it's only uncovering what's underlying anyway. So if you're in a really happy place, it's not going to cause you a lot of stress. But if you're feeling really anxious while you have these increased hormones, it's because there's underlying anxiety that you've either not dealt with throughout your life, you haven't been given the tools to, or you haven't been able to recognize that it's something that you do have to deal with. Because especially for women, we're taught to, put up and shut up. You just got to deal with the hand you've been dealt with, and you take on everything you need to take on. You just get it done. It makes us wonderful creatures, but it also means that a lot of times we're carrying around a lot of extra baggage.
Yeah, I know I've heard a lot in the groups too, and I've had my own experiences too with doctors. When we go in and tell them at this point that we're having all of these, they give you that suck it up, buttercup, because that's what it is to be a woman, and you have to just deal with this. And for me, I had done everything else that I could, and I was in therapy, and I was working out, and I was doing all these things, and it still was out of control. So I have a very low dose of medication to help from my mood dips, but I never really, at this point, haven't had the anxiety so much as just my own depression. There was a lot going on in my life that would have caused that. But what I do feel, and maybe you can address this for everyone, is that when the hormone dips come, if there's any little thing that's upsetting me in my life, it feels like the whole world is crashing in. And then I know it's okay in a couple of days, but how do you recommend dealing with it in the moment and recognizing what it is?
Yeah, so there's a couple of tools that I give all of my clients. The number one thing is gratitude. And I know that people say that and you think, oh yeah, what do I have to be grateful for? But honestly, anytime that you feel really anxious, stressed out, upset, worried about something, I promise if you set a 60-second timer and say out loud or write down, you have to, and the reason I say that is because if you use 2 senses to do something, it's more effective than just saying it in your head. So if you say it out loud, record yourself saying it, or write down things that you're grateful for 60 seconds, it will change how your brain is looking at the problem that you're faced right now. It has no choice. You cannot think negative and positive at the same time. It's an impossibility with the way your brain is. So if you do that, and if you think, I have nothing to be grateful for. When I first did this, ice water was on my list. I really like cold water, and that's what I put on my list. Feel free to do that. I also liked that I had clean towels that day when I started my gratitude journal. So that's what I put on the list. It's okay if it's just those things. And then the next thing is, when you journal, be honest with yourselves, because I can tell you that the first few times that I talked to my clients, they weren't even being honest with themselves in their journal with what was going on. So it's okay to, if you have someone you can confide in, great. If you can't, confide in your journal, find a coach, find a friend, find an accountability buddy, whatever. But it has to be someone that you can really say what you're really thinking. It may be silly once you say it out loud, but your subconscious believes it, or you wouldn't be carrying it around. You have that belief, that pattern, that experience inside you, so you have to express it. And once you do, once it's outside of you, then you can look at it and examine it a little bit and say, okay, is this really true for me? Is the world really crashing down? Well, no, I've paid rent this month. I have lights. I have a toilet that flushes. It can be as basic as that, but once you start getting it outside of your head, you can start chopping it down and realizing it's not as bad as you think.
So those are all excellent. And I was giggling when you said about a flushing toilet because I'm married to a plumber, and right now my toilet is not flushing, but that's a story for another day.
There's a little bit of irony there.
I know. Just married to a plumber, you think I wouldn't have these problems. But okay, so what about just like the day-to-day feelings of anxiety for women at my age, which is around 50. So we're going through this hormonal swing. For a lot of us, our children are either teenagers or already in college, maybe a little bit older even, leaving the house. And so now we're coming into what are we going to do with our lives and address that kind of anxiety maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually worked with a woman about a month ago. She was 65, so it's older than the age group you're talking about. But something that she's always wanted to do is dance classes. She's wanted to do it for 20 years. We spent 2 hours together. She got off the phone with me, and 20 minutes later, she was signed up for dance class. And as far as I know, she's been doing it every day since, at 65 years old. Yeah. So one of the key things is to start getting in touch with what do you really want to do. Do you want to do something like dance classes? I know those wine and paint nights are really popular now. And some of my friends that have done it, they're like, I really love painting. So if that's something you want to do, then just write out a list of interests that you have. Now, a lot of people have a hard time with this because you've been so long focused on your kids, focused on your partner, focused on your job, whatever it is. And now if someone suddenly says, what do you like to do? You may not have the answer to that. So it's like, think about what are the books I like to read? What am I attracted to in stores? What kind of movies do I like? And then just break it down from there. What do I like spending my time on? What makes me the happiest? You know, is it like, for me, art galleries are huge. If I get to go to an art gallery, it's like I'm recharging my batteries. Being by the ocean is huge for me too. So those sound minor, but if I do a couple of those things, if I can't get to an art gallery, but I flip through an art book, I just feel more inspired. So you have to really get in touch with what it is you really like. And don't worry if it's just a small thing. Like, I have fresh flowers I bring into my house. I buy for myself every 2 weeks. Just that small gesture, it's $23, I think, and it's this huge bouquet. I feel happy every time I walk into my kitchen because I see these flowers. I might actually do it for other rooms now because I get so much happiness from it. But just doing little tiny things like that for yourself and uncovering what your true interests are gets you to stop focusing in your head, because when we spend time in here, it can be a scary place. There's a lot of things rolling around in there that you have to deal with. So getting yourself out of your own mind and focusing on something else that is not involving a third party, by the way, because that's what you've done most of your life. So what do you like to do? Do you like to read? Bubble baths and reading is good for me. I go through so many books in the bubble bath. Luckily they don't fall in, or they haven't yet. I like shoes. I go buy shoes that, but it has to be something that you really like doing for yourself, and it doesn't involve someone else. Now, if you're going to go to the movies and you want to bring a friend, great, that's no problem. But pick the movie. Don't defer to the other person. Those are just small little tips that you can start doing for yourself to get yourself out of your own head. And then you can grow from there. You might want to pick up a hobby. You might want to start a little part-time business. You might want to take up a class, lead a class. Who knows?
So what do you say for people who are completely kind of engulfed in their anxiety, that they're feeling almost homebound by it? What would be some of the first steps that they could take?
The first steps is getting it out of your head. So journal about it. Like what is it really that you're worried about that if you left the house would be traumatic? Or, what is it that is holding you back? And just start writing without stopping, and just, it doesn't matter what comes to your head. It could be like dogs are red, birds are blue. Like, it doesn't matter at first, but the more you do that, the more your brain's going to give you the information that you need to hear. And it's going to come from something bigger than you. Sometimes you're like, well, I didn't even realize I was going to write that. What did that come from? Just that exercise, that automatic writing, they call it, it just helps you get a lot of that built up anxiety out of your way. And then think of 3 things that you can do that's going to move you forward in some way. So if it's, I journaled today, that's great. If it's, I stood up outside on my step for 5 minutes. If it's really that you can't leave the house, I stood outside for 5 minutes. I set a timer even. I feel so much better now that I did that. The only thing that counters you being in a cycle, like a negative cycle or an anxiety, is action out of it. You have to take action in the other way, as small as it might seem. It's kind of like, when a figure skater is spinning and spinning, you wonder, how do you not get dizzy? It's because they always focus on one spot. Their head always goes back. I don't know if you've ever seen them do it. I don't know how they do it, because I've tried it.
I don't know how they do it either. I tried.
No. I'm too dizzy, but they have a technique that they do with it. So it's the same idea. Just find something that's going to pull you out of it, even if it's only for 5 minutes. That's going to allow you to kind of be like, okay, for those 5 minutes, I didn't feel it. And then you can kind of grow from there. Meditation is another really great thing. I haven't mastered meditation, but I know a lot of my clients who've used it. Oprah and Deepak Chopra actually were 11 days into their 30-day meditation challenge. That's something that's great to do. And didn't you do also a 5-minute meditation?
Yeah, I do. And I honestly don't believe that, well, maybe it's just because it's been my experience. I don't believe that meditation can be mastered per se. It's a matter of really taking that time and sitting there. And that might be the only mastery, is that you've cut the time in to sit and be okay with your thoughts and be alone with them and not freak out, and just breathe and know that you're right here, right now. The world is still spinning on its axis. The ocean is still swaying, the birds are singing, whatever it is, and realize that all of this chaos that goes on around you it doesn't really affect you as much as you want to believe that it does. And that's my experience with meditation. So,
yeah, no, that's really true. That's really great. And someone who, Eckhart Tolle, he's a really great author. Now, his books are pretty deep, but he just has this theory in The Power of Now. And it's true, I've heard other experts talk about this as well. Anytime that you're worried, you're either living in the past or you're living in the future. But the really only time we have is right now. So what can you do to bring yourself right to right now? So the truth is, if you have a lot of debt, for example, or if you don't know what direction you're going in your life, or you're worried about the aging that your body's going through, right now, are you alive and breathing? If you can start with that, then build from there. Okay, do you have a house? Do you have food? Do you have everything you need right in this moment to live your life in this 60 seconds that we're talking? Yes? Okay, then great. Then you can start eliminating the past and the future things just for a few minutes at a time, and then you can build up from there. When you worry about the past, you can't change anything that happened then. You just can't. You don't have any control over it. And if you're worried about the future, ask yourself, what is the worst case scenario about what I'm worried about? And write it down. The worst case scenario is I'm going to be stuck at home alone and nobody's going to love me. Okay. Is that the truth? Do you not have friends right now? Yes, I have friends and they quite love me. Okay. Can you live with those friends as it is? Yes, I can. Okay. So then you keep taking it down a layer, and then you realize the worst case scenario, even if it happens, you can live with it. And second of all, it's not even that bad anyway. That's such an extreme thing of what could happen.
Right. And we make up these magical endings of in our thoughts that just really aren't going to come to fruition anyway. We can imagine things incredibly depressing for no particular reason whatsoever, other than our brains just seem to work that way. And I'm sure it's some sort of protective mechanism that we just haven't outgrown yet in our reptile brain.
Yeah.
Delora, do you have any last minute tips that you'd like to share? Or?
Yeah, just go easy on yourself. Like this, aging can be beautiful. Aging is not what it used to be. Go get examples of people who are aging gracefully and who are embracing the times that they're facing. There's so many, even if you just want to look at celebrities, there's so many celebrities that are embracing their aging and looking beautiful doing it, feeling great, acknowledging the hormones. Jamie Lee Curtis did a really funny spread about her, Photoshop, not Photoshopped, and then she did an article about it.
Mm-hmm.
She's a great example of someone who's embraced it. We have the power to feel how we want. I know sometimes we don't feel like that's the truth, but it really is. I wake up every day and say, how can I help others? What can I do today to help someone else? And how can I feel my best? Well, it's putting on clean clothes. It's making sure my teeth are brushed. Like if we just start with little things like that and build from there, then we can start adding to it and feeling really great about where we are and taking back control.
Oh, that's a great one. Taking back control. I think that's a perfect place to end it. We do have that power to take back control of our lives, no matter how desperate this seems. There are alternatives to what you're thinking. And if you need help finding alternatives, you have to start bouncing it off of other people and get out of here and come visit the world. Yeah. Delora, thank you so much for all of your information. You're always, I am a fangirl, so hunt you down. And I will put all of your information on how to find you, but because you're at Mindset Mastery is your Facebook group?
Richer Life Mindset.
Richer Life Mindset. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry. That's okay.
I will fix it in all of the wording so that people can find you. And if you have a chance to work with Delora, you really should take it. It's an absolute positively life-changing opportunity. So I hope you meet up with her.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to talk with you.